Hey everybody, Josh Sigurdson of World Alternative Media here. So today I wanted to cover a few issues, cover some of the news. I was supposed to be interviewing the one and only Jeffrey Tucker today, and Jeffrey Tucker wasn't able to join us as I don't know exactly what happened. There's a loss in communication, but all the same, I figured I'd answer some of your questions and hopefully, I don't know, maybe cover some news. Kind of not completely on the ball because I've been having a hard time waking up today, but let's see here. We are public. Can everyone hear us, first of all? Can you hear us? Can you see me? Let me know in the comments. Sniper Cam TV asks, is Ripple going to be the new Bitcoin? I do not think so. For the bankers, maybe. It's rather centralized. I mean, it's a good way to make a lot of money, but it's not exactly ideal. Bitcoin has a cap, a circulation cap. It'll only go up to 21 million coins by the year 2140. Ripple is just printed like crazy. Let me actually see right now. I think there are 38,622,870,411 Ripple coins. So I'm not quite sure that it will beat Bitcoin. Bitcoin has a scarcity and demand that gold has, though some people find that blasphemous for me to say, but it's true. And Bitcoin also has a lot more application, though the bankers may implement a lot of new things with Ripple in the future. But I wanted to quickly get into some news. I pulled up a few things from Zero Hedge, my go-to place. Zero Hedge is by far my favorite place to look for news. They cover things before anyone else does and makes us at WAM a lot ahead of the ball when it comes to covering the news often too. John Sneisen is going to be coming here soon to do some economics reports with us, so I won't be able to be online for a super long time, but I wanted to cover a few things because, well, it's kind of fun to reach out to our viewers and be able to interact with people. So this article from Zero Hedge says Jeff Bezos becomes second man in history to amass 12-figure fortune. He has $100 billion. Now, I'd like to correct the record on that quickly because, as they kind of mentioned, Bill Gates has hit that mark before. The Rothschild family has historically had trillions of dollars over time, but it's not publicly recognized. They don't release all of their records. They never have. Not that they should have to, but it's important to realize that they are basically controlling much of the banking system going back several centuries, and they do have a massive control complex in place, and they've amassed trillions of dollars over time. So anyway, this article says $100 billion. That is the net worth of Amazon founder and Washington Post owner Jeff Bezos after Amazon's shares surged today on optimism over Black Friday. As Bloomberg reports, the $100 billion milestone makes Bezos, 53, the first billionaire to build a 12-figure net worth since 1999, when Microsoft Corp co-founder Bill Gates hit the mark. Now, I want to quickly make a point here. This is why you don't bully the geek in school, folks. He becomes a 100 billionaire, or, somewhere around that ballpark anyway. The joke's usually on you. I think most of the bullies I remember from high school and elementary school are now either dead, in a gang, in jail, severe alcoholic, or have a really bad dead-end job. Worth pointing that out. I have to admit, I should feel really happy about that, but I kind of feel bad for them. Anyway, Bezos' fortune rose $32.6 billion this year through Thursday. Talk about dividends. The largest increase of anyone on the Bloomberg Billionaires Index, a daily ranking of the world's 500 richest people. It's absolutely insane. They have the same market cap, basically, of, it says G3 central bank balance sheet. I guess I can't really show you the chart on this. I have to figure out the technology. I'm not the best tech guy ever. So just an interesting story. I think that someone working in their garage, working all the way up to that, is great, except for he's gotten so much money from the government over time. He's been massively subsidized. He's given favorhood through regulation and taxes, while small businesses can't compete, and he's basically taking over the market. So I think it's less about individual demand, though there is that involvement, but more about just government favorhood, and there is the watching eye of Big Brother involved in that too, and I can't go without pointing that out. Now let's see. I'm looking at some comments here. Thanks for commenting, everyone. Legend Meadow asks, Josh, do you think Bitcoin is a bubble right now? Personally, I see cryptocurrencies as digital fiat. Now, let's make this clear. Fiat, by definition, is by government decree. It's centrally planned legal tender. It's based in debt. Bitcoin is decentralized, based in scarcity, demand, and application, and is not legal tender by any means at all. Though there are digital currencies that are being unrolled in a similar sense that are legal tender and are centralized, which people too often confuse because too many people don't understand the importance of whether it's centralized or decentralized. It has a lot to do with the sketchiness of being involved in such a thing. But Bitcoin bubble, there is a crypto bubble, but let me make this clear. Bitcoin to the crypto bubble is kind of like Amazon, like we just spoke of, and Google to the .com bubble. Just because there's a bubble doesn't mean everything involved in the bubble is going to go down. There's going to be a major correction eventually, but in my eyes, I see that as a huge discount sale on Bitcoin. Bitcoin has a lot of potential, and I'm really excited about it. Michael Holiday, thank you very much for the $5. He says, buy Bitcoin 40K by 2019. Very, very possible. I actually would even go higher because in the last year, we've gone from about $900 and something to it's over 82. Let me see what it is at this moment. 82.90. Let me just refresh this to be completely accurate. 82.39 US dollars. And in Canadians, that's a lot more. In rupees, that's a lot more. And goes without saying. I think that by the average daily rate of growth, average 7-day daily, or this is a difficult stat that I have to wrap my head around. The 7-year average daily rate of growth there. By that standard, Bitcoin should hit $250,000 by the year 2020. Some Wall Street investors are talking about pulling out at $196,000 per one Bitcoin. Fine. I mean, it would probably be good to pull back a little bit when it approaches that number, take some profit, let it fall, and then get back in. Because when they say that, it's probably going to, even if they don't all pull out, it's a news item that's significant and people will freak out and sell off somewhat. But Bitcoin 40K by 2019, I have no doubt about it. And I actually think there's a good chance it'll hit that in the year 2018. But, speculating becomes dangerous after a while as well. And CMod mentions Ether up 90%. Absolutely. Ethereum is skyrocketing the past week. I have some holdbacks about Ethereum. I used to be in. I pulled out because I found that there's too much centralization going on at the Ethereum Foundation, I believe it's called, by Vitalik Buterin. And the Peter Thiel's involvement kind of sketched me out. And I know he saw it as like his main goal when he created PayPal was to do exactly what Vitalik ended up doing with Ethereum. So he was a big investor in the early days. But Peter Thiel kind of sketches me out. He seems like a decent guy in some respect. And then he goes to Bilderberg. And I just have my holdbacks about anyone that goes to Bilderberg. I mean, I started out confronting Bilderberg members like Conrad Black on the steering committee who blatantly lied to my face about what went on there. I'm going to check Steemit. I want to see if anyone commented anything. Not much happening on Steemit right now. $1.03. I appreciate every upvote. But if you are on Steemit.com, send us questions on our post at Josh Sigurdson, Steemit.com. Now, let's see. By the way, once again, thank you very much, Michael Holiday. I really appreciate it. That's the first amount of money sent on Super Chat to WAM. Very excited about that. It looks like it's very promising, and I like to work for my money, so it's definitely appreciated. Now let's see. Legend Meadow says, but you have to agree it's kind of like a Ponzi scheme. I like Bitcoin, but I don't like how massive the inflation is. It's not sustainable, and a lot of people will end up losing money. Now, we have to look at the difference between inflation via the printing of currency, the debt accumulation, etc., and inflation of a price based on demand. When you look at fiat, the currency itself isn't inflated. It's massively devalued, which creates inflation because they print so much of it. Bitcoin has a cap, and it has a set algorithm, and mathematically it has to stay on that algorithm path, so it creates a constant scarcity, which is the opposite of what fiat centrally planned currency has. So inflation of value based on demand isn't a bad thing. People always have to do their own due diligence and watch out and be careful and don't put more into something than they can afford to put into it. But yeah, Legend Meadow says, haha, you don't need to tell me about central banks causing inflation. I live in Norway. Well, yeah, absolutely. So I guess you would know very well about that situation. Of course, our economic analyst here at WAM is from Norway as well, and he has some horror stories, and we will continue to go into that. In fact, I think we just posted a video yesterday on Norway and how basically the stock markets are going to crash, the housing market's going to crash, and the kroner is going to crash. Very, very dangerous time for the markets and monetary system in Norway. But I think that the word inflation is thrown around a little bit loosely, with all due respect, sir. I think that it's important that we understand the difference between the massive central planning and the decentralization, the difference between debt accumulation and just piling up of currency and creation of currency, and then on top of that, the difference between that and, of course, scarcity, rarity, not that much being around. Gold and silver, there's not much in the world, but there is there's not much gold and silver in the world, but there's enough to give it some kind of scarcity and demand. It's rare, so it grows in value as people accumulate it. It's a great thing. And then Bitcoin has a vast amount of scarcity as well because it's rare, and they base the whole system on gold and silver. Now, oh wow, okay, so Michael Holiday, you are my hero today. He says, buy Bitcoin equals starve bankers. They can't loan against it. Get a loan and buy Bitcoin. Let them sell you the rope to hang themselves. You know what? That some people may want to follow that advice. I personally say, do your own due diligence. I don't give advice. I give my opinion, mostly because, well, you need some kind of Keynesian degree to actually give advice, sound advice, without potentially going to jail for that. So I have to make that completely clear. But I agree that there's definitely good potential in that, Michael. And, you know, when it comes down to it, the bankers, they depend on the debt of the populace, the fear of the populace, the servitude of the populace. When it comes to Bitcoin, they depend on people leaving that subservient system and escaping it at all means necessary. And it's important to diversify gold, silver, Bitcoin. Diversify, folks. Assets. That doesn't involve your house. Your house is not an asset until you sell it. I'll leave it at that. But hey, Lee Stewie says hi, Josh. Hey, how's it going? Say hi to Dan for me. Bart Cibulski. I apologize if I am not pronouncing your name correctly. What inflation? He says. Fed says there is no inflation. Yeah, that's. The Fed says a lot of things. I'm sure you're being sarcastic. I could tell by the smiley face. Sniper Cam TV. Iceland had a problem too, so they locked the bankers up. I agree that it's interesting and good to an extent that they lock the bankers up, but when you get rid of people that are doing a bad thing, you don't replace them with more people who are doing the same bad thing. There's still vast amount of central planning. There's still vast amount of market manipulation. There's still vast amounts of debt accumulation and debt servitude in Iceland. The housing market is a great example of that in the bigger parts of Iceland as well. So it's good that they locked up the bankers, but they should probably have followed their own, I don't know, instinct and not just put more bankers in power and then become subservient to the debt by those bankers. Now, I'm going to... first I'm going to answer. Jerry or Gary K says, Josh, are you coming to Toronto? If so, you can stay here. I very much appreciate it. I depend on the great people all over the world whenever I travel because I'll tell you, especially in Canada, I find hotels are ridiculously expensive. It's funny because, you go to this Travelodge hotel on the side of a highway in Canada. It's a terrible, terrible quality. Yet you end up you spend like $100+ a night. And then you go to Mexico, to Acapulco, and you're spending like $45 to $60 a night on a 5-star resort. Please tell me how that makes any sense. It's absolutely insane, and I think a lot of it has to do with taxes, property taxes, etc., regulations. So I'm just going to go and look at one more news story here. This is from Zero Hedge, by the way. This Obamacare enrollment assistance group got $200,000 in federal funds, enrolled one person. Again, another example of the vast inefficiency, waste, and control that the government pushes forward into the marketplace. Obamacare is, it could be worse, but it's about as bad as it's ever gotten in the United States. The market manipulation through healthcare is vastly disintegrating the market. So people say, well, I want free healthcare. Well, nothing's free. You get it from the taxpayers. You pump all this money into the system from the taxpayers. You give it to these big corporations that are monopolized by the state. And because you are giving it to these big corporations, you are ending up bringing the price of the drugs up, price of the treatment up, price of the pharmaceuticals up, because you give no incentive for competition and demand. And that is what innovates. That's what creates innovation. So when you pump all that money into that system by the hand of the state, you are creating the vast amounts of money you're spending in that system to begin with. So you're inflating it. Problem, reaction, solution, repeat. The Hegelian dialectic, as they call it. So I think it's incredibly dangerous, and it doesn't surprise me at all that they would... some group would get $200,000 of federal funds and enroll only one person. And I'll just go into the article a little bit. Earlier this summer, congressional Democrats lost their collective minds when the Trump administration announced plans to cut Obamacare's marketing budget from $100 million down to $10 million. Here was Chuck Schumer's response. The Trump administration is deliberately attempting to sabotage our healthcare system. When the number of people with health insurance declines and costs skyrocket, the American people will know who's to blame. And man, he's such a... I'm not even going to go there. And then the article goes on to say, now, per a note from MSNBC, we're getting some new data on just how effective Obama's $100 million marketing budget has been. According to data supplied by the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, one group in South Dakota received $200,000 worth of federal funding and managed to sign up just one person. A group that is supposed to help Native Americans sign up for Obamacare coverage in South Dakota received $200,000 in federal funds to support its effort and managed to sign up just one person in an Obamacare plan, the Trump administration said Wednesday. The group, the Great Plains Tribal Chairman's Health Board, had better luck in North Dakota, where it assisted 67 people in shopping for and enrolling in Obamacare plan that went into effect in 2017. But in that state, GPTCHB received an additional $154,000 in federal cash for its effort. That works out to nearly $3,000 per Obamacare enrollee of GPTCHBs in North Dakota. In both Dakotas, the group's work cost taxpayers $5,200 per enrollee, according to data from the Federal Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services. So again, great inefficiency, absolutely disgusting. The government thrives on extortion, murder, kidnapping, and subservience, and they want to grow their racket by the day, and people willingly do that under the guise of, well, we're helping sick people. No, you're actually hurting sick people. That's why people like in Canada, Jack Layton of the New Democratic Party, the NDP, also known as Socialist, pushed this whole free healthcare thing and this whole single payer system. And then when he got cancer, traveled to Europe for treatment. It's absolutely nonsense, folks, and we have to be able to see through this this absolute scam. Let's see. Still no comments on Steemit. Come on, guys. Surprise. Yesterday it blew up on Steemit. Let's see here. Michael Holiday says, let's get some super chats, people. Josh looks too skinny. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. I am. I need my food. You know, I just moved into a new place, and it's split a couple ways, but it's a super expensive place, and it's killing me. I would love to be traveling to different places right now, and unfortunately, I'm stuck in some apartment 4 stories up with really loud traffic next to it, which almost destroyed my Ron Paul interview that I conducted last week, or about a week and a half ago. I'm set to do this interview with Ron Paul, and suddenly they're building a building right across the street. They decide on that day to do that, and they're drilling into the ground, and the whole building's shaking. And I'm thinking, oh man, this is terrible. Then Ron Paul comes up over Skype. We start talking, getting ready for the interview, and suddenly it just stops. And it's like 12 p.m. and they all go on lunch break. It's unbelievable how lucky I got with that, because otherwise my Ron Paul interview, the whole time you just hear bang, 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 bang the whole freaking time. That would be terrible. Let's see. Let's look at some questions. Sniper Cam TV says hookers in Mexico are $7.50. That's cheap. Yeah, but it costs a lot more to get or take care of the HIV or STDs that you get because of it. I don't suggest doing that. But to each their own. I couldn't help but notice in Mexico that there are like everywhere you look, there's hookers. But whatever, $7.50. Come on, people have to put a better price on their life. Let's see. Meteor Hammer asks, any thoughts on Upper Canada Law's motion towards exclusive principles and privatization to maintain their attorney's license? I have absolutely no knowledge on that subject, unfortunately. Sorry to say. I'm going to have to look into that. If you have any links or comments on that yourself, I'd love to hear them. I haven't looked into that. The thing is, it's funny because, you know, people say, have you seen this video by this person, or have you read that article? And all I do all day is, you know, 18 hours a day, every day, all day, write up stories, look for news stories, then report on it and edit it, and then process it, write the article for it, the thumbnail for it, post it, market it, and while I'm doing that, I'm already getting ready the next piece. And I never have time to watch other people's videos, which is unfortunate. I used to love just watching, you know, We Are Change and Press for Truth and, you know, Freedom Free for All and all those guys all the time, and unfortunately, I don't have as much time to do so anymore, which is kind of depressing. Meteor Hammer says Jordan Peterson has done a few streams on it. I'll post the link. That's awesome. You know, I'm actually working on setting up an interview with Jordan Peterson soon. Actually, he argued against anarcho-capitalism in a recent piece he did for actually on the Rubin Report, and I wanted to kind of debate him on it. I have a lot of respect for the guy, but I also have a few disagreements. But I love what he's doing against cultural Marxism, because it has become a plague on free, independent mankind. TMP 022 016 TMP. That's a long name, man. He says, What do you think about capitalism? Is it true capitalism is eating democracy? Well, democracy is enslavement, capitalism is freedom, capitalism is individuals deciding what they want to do, fair and square between consenting adults or children or whatever. You shake the hand, you make a decision, both sides fair and square. Capitalism today doesn't truly exist. We have corporatism. Corporatism is aided by the state. Capitalism cannot be aided by the state, or else it ceases to be capitalism. It becomes fascism. Capitalism is a beautiful thing, and it's true democracy if you think about it, because it's individuals deciding what to do or what they want with their dollar, with their demand, where democracy is two wolves and a sheep deciding what to have for dinner, and basically a collective effort to enslave the minority. Or in places like Canada, where Trudeau gets 36% of the vote, then you're enslaving the vast majority to some ideas that a few people think is good. Good ideas don't require force. Capitalism is a beautiful thing, but what we see today is truly not capitalism, and it's disgusting. Capitalism would allow so many more companies in the market to compete for the best products and innovate, and there'd be more jobs, higher wages, etc., etc. And I've gone into that many times before. I've done a lot of reports on it. And I'll continue to report on that going into the future. I'm going to be going out to Anarchapulco in February. I hope people can join me there. I'd love to meet many of our viewers. If you want to save 10% on your tickets to Anarchapulco, you can type in promo code WAM, that's WAM, at the website. It's definitely a good deal, I think, anyway. I'm paying full price, man. So let's see. We've got some more comments. Legend Meadow says, I laughed my ass off when you were debating gun control with that SJW in Vancouver. It's absolutely insane. The guy basically threatened us legitimately. I was doing this thing with Dan Dix, for those that don't know, a Press for Truth. I was on the streets of Vancouver. We were asking people about gun control and then debunking their points, because I kind of just expected, most people in Vancouver, it's a very socialist place, would be totally against people freely defending themselves. So I asked people on the streets all these questions, and everyone was against gun rights except for like a couple people. And then there was this one guy that we saw. He was an obvious SJW with his girlfriend, who, by the way, wouldn't let his girlfriend speak the entire time. Shows how tolerant he really is. And we questioned him for a while. His points made no sense. He kept talking about if gun control or if gun rights worked, someone would have killed Trump by now, which is absolutely insane. And basically, he ended up, right after we shut off the camera, Dan Dix went to shut off the camera at the end. He said, don't use that. That's all we got on video. But then right after, he's like right up in our face and shouting at us, don't use that. You will not use that. I'll be watching, blah, blah, blah. And I'm just thinking like, oh yeah, you're going to be watching, and what are you going to do about it? I mean, guy was like 4 feet tall. Anyway, looked like he had blush on. Anyway, I don't want to be too much of a bully, but he was an idiot, plain and simple. And he walked away, and then he came back after and was like shouting in our face in the middle of the street about how we can't use the video, and he'll find out if we do. And then we gave him our information, and then because of him being such a douche, I decided, well, this would be awfully funny if I posted that video alone on top of the montage that we put up and kind of troll him. So that was fun, and it got decent reviews. I find is always fun to do streeters. Unfortunately, I don't get to do it as much because I live in Winnipeg, Canada, so it's freezing cold all the time in the winter, and there's no real opportunities to do so. Do we have any comments on Steemit yet? Still no comments on Steemit. $6.35 in the bank, though. Let's see here. I'm going to have to go, though, because John Snyson is getting here. We are going to do some reports. So sorry for the quick sign-off. I think he's here right now. I hear him knocking at the door. So a lot of big economic reports coming your way. So stay tuned for more from RAM. I really appreciate all the support you guys give. And until next time, this is Josh Sigurdson, and signing out from World Alternative Media. Find the truth, be the change.